another interesting experience I had. During a day last week, I took on an idea, and I was entertaining the notion of it. And I sort of realised that it probably wasn't the greatest idea that I could entertain. As I went to bed, I would discover this to be the case. Because I didn't fully go into sleep. I was in a state between wakefulness and sleep. And I was suddenly aware of, out of my magic wardrobe on my left, where a lot of strange things seemed to emanate from, suddenly a mass of tentacle-like tapline type things started creeping from them and wriggling towards me, and they were trying to attach themselves to me, and I was fighting them off. So to me, obviously, these were representing taplines, and I was battling and snapping at these taplines and shaking them off and such. And then and obviously at that point, realising this was the effect of my taking on this idea and then abandoning the idea, the taplines would then retreat back into the wardrobe, and the wardrobe doors would seal, and suddenly a padlock sort of manifested on the on the wardrobe. So I was thinking either this is a padlock I'd put on there myself, or perhaps a guide had placed it there almost again as a demonstration that yes, this is definitely not an idea you would want to be taking on.
Well, that was excellent. Because of your mannerism, how you speak and how you present this, it's very good. It's like one of those movie dramas. And I suggest you create a radio show with your parents. They're having your dad and Pearce and whatever, and you kids could be different characters, but you could write a script with a lot of these things. Just how you could be the announcer, then have them come in. You could do something fun, like in the past, it created some series called Strange Things. Okay. And so relating in that way, but your experiences themselves, and then you kind of expand upon them. It's just very, very good. And that's very, very good. It shows you that, yes, as you approach certain ideas and you become involved in them, look at the world around. Everything you see, from your house to the cars to the buildings to the streets, and whatever else is going on with the government and et cetera, and the military, these are all ideas. And somebody went forth and, continually expanded with these ideas, and they've become such. So that's cool. That's giving you a heads up. So you have a viewpoint there, and life is demonstrating something to you. And so now when you look at the world, you more so better understand how these ideas work, instead of just looking at the world as something that, oh, okay, this is the world, this is what's going on. But all of it is a creation. All of these are ideas, the buildings, everything. These are simply, they started with ideas, and they are ideas that get agreement. And so this is how the world has created itself and then agrees to it, and this is how the demise of the world has come about, because what it's agreeing to, instead of the natural environment that supports us, it's fine with destroying that. So again, you see where those little ideas start. So that's very, very good, Kevin. Again, I suggest that you kids have some fun with that. You could make like a little radio show and eventually your own movies, like Alfred Hitchcock. Yeah.
Okay, it's something to bear in mind. Yeah, we'll have a little ponder over that and see what we can bodge up and get going. Yeah, it's quite strange with my wardrobe, because it definitely seems to be incorporated quite a lot in my experiences of late. As I said, all sorts of endless things seem to come forth from it and become involved in my experiences and demonstrations. So if in doubt, I always look to my wardrobe. I'll share 2 more experiences, then hopefully Pearce would have finished the dishes. he can share his. Okay. This was quite a fun one that I had, a dream. There was a huge castle in the sky, and lording over this castle were several large, winged female dragons, and they lived in the uppermost turrets. And I was with a fairly large group of people this time, and we had to go through various stages or tests in the lower levels of this castle. In this first test we were at, we had to endure an ordeal. It seems we had to evade mighty pillars of fire, and then, if successful, we would have to slay various smaller dragons, and then ultimately destroy a final monster after all of that. So it read like a kind of computer game, in fact, almost with a final boss at the end. And, in fact, a treasure chest would actually yield its contents if our group were victorious. The fire pillars would come in a sequence. For some reason, I had a vague memory of this sequence, but I couldn't quite remembering it. So we had to resort by going by trial and error, a few steps at a time, to learn when and where the fire columns would hit. And a few of our number were engulfed and killed by these fire columns, and it was quite vivid and quite horrendous when they did get hit and die, because it was very visual. And there was one individual there amongst us who, for some reason, was fire resistant, which is quite a handy trait, I suppose. And as I said, we couldn't remember if his ability actually kicked in from the very start of this event, or if it happened later on in the test. Naturally, he was a wee bit concerned and was rather inclined to know exactly when his ability would kick in. I didn't recognise any of the people in the group except one, and this was Kelsey, and she was there, and she seemed to be orchestrating our strategy. I never saw the culmination of our test, or if we were successful or not, as at this point I would wake up, and that's the end of the dream.
Well, again, you described it aptly, and again, there's more adventures for your radio show, and so yes, you're going about things in your own way. Castles in the Sky kind of reminds me of Wagner's the Valhalla, the gods in the sky, the Valhalla thing, etc. And so again, situations in creation, which are fun, and to wake up and recognize and go through these situations, and other people there's many are given the opportunity to see what they will do, because again, many steps to waking up and recognizing and being able to handle that recognition, etc. Something along those lines. But you see it for what it is. And Kelsey and others are there. There's Miss Kelsey in your experience again, etc. So on the real side, they have the awareness to do that, and you're going through what you're going through. So those are fun tests for you. Again, you can bring these things out in a particular way, and just like when we were kids, we read children's books, and these are adventures like that, and kids like them, even the adults like them. You see. And especially today, people are looking for something more real. They see the fallacy of so many things, but they don't know where to go. So this is why we're here, and that's part of the adventure too. So again, you got a lot to work with there, Kevin. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, during that dream, I was very aware that it was test number 1, so it was certainly suggesting there were other tests to be had, and that would eventually lead up to the uppermost turrets where the dragons were lurking, which suggested possibly a final test. And so I shall just share one more experience then, and this was one of my out-of-body astral projection excursions, and I used to do astral projections quite readily, and but then I would, but I do them consciously now because of all the problems and the dodgy entities and the holes in the aura that you can get by doing them. But as I say, I didn't intend to do it, but occasionally they'll just sort of happen, and so I just go along with it. So there I found myself outside of my body, probably on the astral level. I went out into my street. It looked slightly different than it does on the physical level. There were a few houses with a few lights on, and I popped in and out of some of these homes to see who I might encounter. Usually when I do this in a out-of-body experience, I don't tend to go through the front door. I tend to just warp through the walls, which might be a bit disconcerting to the occupants, but I think this is a cool way of entering and leaving abodes, in my opinion. And also when I do my out-of-body experiences, and a lot of times I will encounter the guide. I think it's Ramu, I think the individual's name is. He's the one who looks very similar to... I must learn the actual names of these guys. I get them so mixed up. He looks a little like Rebazar, but he has that hat. He wears a hat that is depicted wearing a hat quite often, sort of thing. And I'm pretty sure that's the one. Ramu is his name. And when I do see him on my out-of-body experience, he does seem to have a fondness for flying mechanical bikes, which is rather peculiar. A few times I've seen him, and he'll be cycling away in the sky in one of these funny contraptions, and we would exchange a wave. And once I actually went with him on a mechanical bike on my own, and we sort of cycled off into the sky at one point. But anyway, on this occasion, I saw him again, and he was at the end of the street. But there was something different about him this time. He seemed to lack what I may call the real izziness presence about him, for want of a better word, that the guides and Dwayne generally have. And because when I tend to meet the guides on the real side, or Dwayne as an example, they have this very sort of strong presence about them that can't be duplicated. So to me, that's the ultimate indication they are who they are, and there's not somebody trying to be an imposter of them and such. But this time, as I said, this guide seemed to lack this, and so I approached the izziness lacking guide, and I discovered it was a cardboard cutout of him, and that would obviously explain why he had no presence about him. And then there was a voice booming about the sky, and it was directed at me, and it was being very derogatory, and it was trying to convince me to cease my journey to the Is. And then I popped back into my body, and that was the end of that experience.
Wow, so they like to play games with you. So again, in this one you did the astral projection idea also, right?
Yeah, as I say, I never intend to do that. It just occasionally sort of happens, and I just go along with it.
Oh yeah, it's fine, and it's fine. And you see the difference. So it's very subtle. And yes, I've known many people. I used to do it myself, etc. And Paul actually started off with that. He called it bilocation, being in two places at the same time. And Paul started with that, and he presented that till he called it soul travel. Okay, and that was the next step. He originally called Ekankar, the ancient science of soul travel. That's what he called it. But as the years went by, it became whatever. Okay, and so yes, it's more about your awareness, but it was to give people an experience. It's a valid experience, but you see where it takes you. It takes you to a limited position. Okay. And again, things all of a sudden you have a little bit of a different experience. Now, I'm not saying that with everybody, but your experience here is, so things look different. But then as you looked at them closely, they were different. And all of a sudden, yes, it's another controlled realm. This is what I call the designated heavens, which are the astral, causal, and mental. And there's many beautiful places there, but they are controlled. They are created of a particular to keep individuals there, etc. But then the idea is that a command was made, you might say, that you're to stop doing, etc. And looking for agreement, of course. Because again, these individuals that are controlling creation, controlling the earth, everything, this realm, they are exposed by the very fact of our presence. That's all. They don't want to be exposed, because then we're influencing others, and they don't like that. They like their control, so they're stuck in it also. So again, there's your experience. It's a little bit of again, comparison with, some of your other ones, and all of a sudden you recognize the difference between some of your other experiences and the astral projection that's taking place, you see? So again, but you decide. So that's another cool experience from Kevin for your radio show, Kevin. Yeah. Scare everybody with that one, yeah.
Yeah, I've had quite a few scary out-of-body experiences, and so anybody who thinks they're perfectly safe and present no potential danger to oneself whatsoever, they they might think again when they encounter some of the weird creatures and activities that go on the astral levels. That's for certain. Well, that comes to the end of the experience I shall share for today. So if Pearce is ready, over to you, Pearce. And thank you, Dwayne, for all your insights and responses and such.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, basically, it's just a couple of impressions I've had the past 2 weeks. Well, I had one this Tuesday just gone, and I want to Tuesday before. It's yeah, it was awesome. I just dropped my wife off at Asda. I was sitting in the car, and I had a new you session, and I was on a wave again. Just this massive wave, but I decided, I thought, oh, I'm going to go with it, and I decided, I swam down. I was like swimming, and it was like, it was pretty awesome. There was a light next to me. I couldn't distinguish anything, no shape, but there was a light next to me, and it just took me swimming. And I'll normally wait 10 or 15 minutes before I follow my wife into the shop. And so I thought, well, I've got a while, so I just kept swimming, and it was like, it was awesome. It was like so light, it was so real, but I wasn't concerned about breathing or air, but it was like there was something drawing me deeper and deeper down into the sea, and I never got to see what it was. Basically, I just come out of it like I think I was getting to my destination, and it was just really, really bright light, and I was like standing off of it, like looking. Well, I wasn't standing, obviously, but like I was swimming down. I was like floating, but it was just, I couldn't make anything out. It was just light at the bottom. I don't even know if it was at the bottom, but it was just light, loads of light. And whatever was next to me, it made its way down to it, and it beckoned me down to it. But then I didn't go with it. Then I stopped. I opened my eyes, and it was 10 minutes had been, and it was time to go and meet the missus in the shop, and I'll put a shop in. And yeah, and it was awesome. It gave me an awesome feeling. It was fantastic. And then this Tuesday, just gone, it was the same again, but it was a different store this time. But I was sat outside again, and I was just reading some of what Dwayne had posted on one of the groups. And I thought, yeah, awesome. And I like the same again. I shut my eyes because I thought, well, this is going to be a while in here. She could take up to half hour. So I thought, I'll have a new you. And I had a new you session, probably about 10 minutes. Sat back in the car, and it was fantastic. It was like being in between sleep and not asleep, awake, and I was like in there, but like I was spinning. I could feel myself spinning round. I was like, I don't know if you've seen it, and this is the only way I can describe it. I was like in a ball, like absorb balls that go on the sea, and you're running them. And it was like I was like I was in something like that, but I can't actually describe what it was. But I was like in that, and I was like, it's like I was falling, but I wasn't scared. I was in this ball, but I was falling, but I wasn't scared, and I was spinning around in it. But I was like, I was controlled spin. I wasn't just spinning haphazardly everywhere and smashing into the ball. It was like 1 minute I was in this angle, and then the next angle, it was like every angle you could imagine. I was spinning in it, and it just felt fantastic. And then it was just lights surrounded by these balls of light, all these different colours. But then it was in blackness, but I was encased in something like an eggshell. Like a see-through eggshell, but while I was in it, I was spinning around in it, and it was all lit up like a discotheque, but more so. And it was just there was round lights, and it was just they didn't fade out or they didn't get brighter. It was just there, and it was just, and they were spinning round as well inside whatever I was in, and then that just come round, and it gave me a really awesome like fun. It was what was happening. It was really good fun, and yeah, that was it. That was my 2 impressions that I've had in the past 2 weeks. Yeah, and that was it. And yeah, I just want to tell Dwayne and everybody else. And yeah, like it says in the books, I think it does. Pretty sure it makes you more multidimensional, because I've been getting all kind of impressions lately. Well, since I've read the material, so I haven't read all the books, but I've read a few of them, and I'm still waiting on another one from Christmas coming, but it's not here yet. But yeah, just like it says in the books, these experiences you do have them, and they're fantastic. And yeah, that's it. That's all I've got to say this week. So thanks, Dwayne, and back to you, Kevin. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Pearce. Again, we have many experiences because life is big. And so you have these. And also, a fun way to look at it, too, is like when you're on the wave. I was listening to you, and I know it's a little hard to, your accent's very thick, so I'm sure that it's a little bit difficult for people to understand. But basically, you're swimming and in this big wave with the New Year session. Now, what's interesting, too, when you see the light below or what have you, of course, it's a light, and we wonder, oh, gee, what is that light? And so you kind of wonder about that. Again, that's the personal self. So as you shift to your real awareness, you learn to see it. And you just don't instantly see it. It takes quite a while. It'll take you the rest of your life or even beyond that. I mean, because life is huge. Also, when you see something below or above, have these experiences, and you can decide what is below or above too. Do you realize that? Yes, at some point I realized that. And so again, when you see a mountain there and you're thinking, oh, I want to climb the mountain, but is it that I'm already on the top of the mountain and that's the bottom of the mountain? So again, what is the right position that we have? This is very interesting. So eventually through all these experiences, you'll have those. And it's just like you had the experience, now you're back here. All right, so now here you are, right here, right now. And so everything is in the nowness of life, but everything is about awareness. And so it's not so much to figure it out, but yes, you do, but you can only figure out so much for the personal self, and then it is your reality. You decide your reality. So in the meantime, you're having these experiences, and you decide how you're going to see them and relate to them. So, just like what you're saying, it's like, oh, this is a great experience. I love it. It was this or whatever. But yes, and most people do that. Or it's like, I didn't like it. It scared me. I don't want to do that again. And even people would write to Paul and say, well, leaving your body is dangerous. And Paul would say, well, to these people, it is dangerous. Get it. Okay. So again, it's whatever you decide it to be. But the fun part is, again, is learning to relate to your real awareness, something that the personal self cannot consider. So yes, when you come back in, it's like, oh, I like swimming there. I saw this light, whatever. So you're relating to the personal self, aren't you? Okay, so the adventure is, how would you relate to this without the personal self? How would you define this accordingly, in some new view, etc.? So this is our adventure. We're bringing the new view here, which is more so than something established, or to establish something. This is where, when I'm writing and presenting this, I see myself. I've learned a lot, and that is that this is not a doctrine or whatever that that is being presented. It is references to something else, to awareness, and this is what we're sharing, because this world and most of creation, all of it, is trapped in its own self-convinced consciousness, and this is where the demise lies. It's very real. And so who will take on the challenge to step up and see what else can be brought forward? This is why I suggest to people like Kevin and Kelsey and others, hey, why don't you do a radio show? Why don't you do this? Why don't you start this group? Because again, the more people that start to step up, and yeah, you don't know what you're doing at first, like making a movie. It's like, oh, let's make a movie. Okay, what do we do? Well, I don't know. Let's just start off with something and see where it goes. And that's kind of how it is. And so the same with me and the Vessel Project and other things, and now the galactic thing that we're doing, etc. It's gotten huge, and things appear that I didn't see before, but I like to figure it out. I like to see what else there is with it. So, yes, again, you're one of the characters here with Kevin and Peter and Gwen and the irritating sister, whatever. Okay, so you've got all these characters going. So you kids make quite a show there to possibly share something. A lot of fun, and more so than what people understand. That's the best part, too. It's not that they're going to understand it. Even in the books, I wrote things. And I looked at it and I go, people are not going to understand this. And it's like, okay, well, just let them figure it out. All right, let's see how far they will go. So again, because we've been all taught with our literal minds. So now we are the new show, aren't we? We are the new experience. And a lot of people will label us as a cult, a religion, politics, whatever, or the dark side or the cabal, whatever. It doesn't matter. That's fine. Get that all the time. But we are the adventure. It's all about our real awareness that hasn't been recognized before. So yes, thank you for sharing, Pearce. You and the kids have fun. Yes, it's a great show as always. Thank you. Kids are great. Thank you so much. And yes, been sharing a lot of these images on Facebook through everything with the MegaCon. The adventure there, and you will see Kelsey and the kids live and with their guest, the visitor. Okay, he will be there too. And so a lot of fun, and just letting people know about all the tap lining that's going on. This is our fun adventure too, to warn people and see if they want to wake up or if they just want to keep chasing their thrills and add to the demise of the planet. It's their choice. So we're all doing our part, yes, and it's great that Kelsey, Henry, and Val are on this adventure. Let's see what happens. Thank you, kids. Bye-bye.